Since Buffalo, as I record this on June 8th, 2022, we've had 53 mass shootings with more than 4 victims being injured or killed. This is not normal. But what terrifies me is that according to a poll from the last few days, 44% of Republicans say that mass shootings are something we have to accept.
Now, there is a quarter who says that unfortunately this may be something that we have to accept in a free society. And I do want to point out some partisan difference here. There is bipartisan view that it can be prevented, but there are 4 in 10 Republicans who do say that it may be something we have to accept.
No, gun violence is preventable, and we do not have to sit here and accept mass shootings as something normal, where we don't feel safe in our places of worship, in supermarkets, in funeral homes, and our children and their teachers don't feel safe at school. According to the Washington Post, more than 311,000 students have experienced gun violence at school since Columbine. Sadly, that number will be outdated by the time you watch this. How the hell is this normal? How do we have 44% of Republicans saying that mass shootings are something that we have to accept? Well, I don't know about them, but I'm not going to accept that. And I'm pretty sure that since you're watching this, neither are you. And here's where I want to be super clear. I am not here to say, take away all the guns. If anyone is telling you that's the plan, they're lying to you. Let me tell you about what I do want, what most of us want. I want to talk to you about things that we can do to reduce gun violence. We're not going to cover every single one of them because that would turn this into a very, very long video. But let's talk about some of them, like background checks and waiting periods, red flag laws, minimum age, and ending immunity for gun manufacturers. But before we get started, I wanted to introduce myself in case you don't know me. I am Silvia, and I'm here to help you feel less overwhelmed by the news, eager to create change, and also more informed about what's going on in U.S. politics through easy to navigate content. This video particularly is a little bit hard, but there's some other great ones you can check out on my channel. If that sounds like something you like, hit that subscribe button below and also click on the bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Now, let's go back to some common sense things that would help reduce gun violence. The first one that will come to mind for a lot of people is background checks on all sales. All sales. That's the key part of the sentence. Because federal law requires background checks for all gun sales by licensed gun dealers. That's great. But it does not require background checks for guns sold online or at gun shows. That part is not great. According to Everytown for Gun Safety, the largest gun violence prevention organization in the country, states that go beyond the federal law and require background checks for unlicensed gun sales are associated with 10% lower homicide rates. That is good. A survey from 2015 found that 22% of people in the United States who got a firearm in the 2 years prior did so without a background check. That is almost a quarter of people who got a firearm in those 2 years. And while we're on this topic of background checks, I have to tell you about something called the Charleston Loophole. Listen to this. Even if a background check hasn't been completed, under federal law, gun purchases may move forward by default after 3 business days. How the heck does that make sense? Let me also highlight that about 90% of federal background checks are completed within minutes. And the ones that take longer than 3 days are 4 times as likely to be denied. The Charleston Loophole got its name after the shooter of 9 people at a church in Charleston, South Carolina in 2015. He was legally prohibited from having a firearm, but he got it because his background check wasn't completed within those 3 business days. So he got the weapons. That's why besides background checks on all sales, we do not want firearm sales to move forward until a buyer's background check has been completed. Another solution to gun violence is to implement waiting periods. Waiting period laws require gun buyers to wait a certain period of time before they're able to access a gun they have purchased. Now, why is this important? Because this creates a buffer, an obstacle for someone having a suicidal crisis. Preventing them from getting a gun right away can be the difference literally between life and death. Studies show that if you make suicide a bit more difficult, suicide rates drop. Suicides make up 60% of gun deaths in this country. If we can implement something as simple as a waiting period to reduce suicide rates, why wouldn't we? The next thing I want to talk to you about is what we hear in the news as red flag laws. When someone is in crisis and they're thinking about harming themselves or harming others, family members and law enforcement are often the first ones to see the warning signs. So red flag laws, also known as extreme risk laws, would temporarily prevent someone in crisis from accessing firearms. There are people who could be showing warning signs and are considering suicide or engaging in other violent acts, but they're not prohibited under federal law from owning a gun. These people are legally still able to buy and have guns. And that's exactly where these extreme risk laws or red flag laws fill the gap. Let me give you a very concrete example. February 14th, 2018, Parkland, Florida. The shooter showed repeated threatening behavior. He had been reported more than once to law enforcement, but he still managed to get a gun, kill 17 people, and injure 17 others. Since Parkland, 14 states and Washington, D.C. have passed extreme risk laws, bringing the total number of states with these laws to 19. And since we're talking about Parkland, here's something that I want to point out. The shooter at Sandy Hook, the shooter at Parkland, the shooter at Buffalo, the shooter at Uvalde, they were all between 18 and 20 years old. Here's the next idea. Raise the minimum age to buy a firearm to 21. If you need to be 18 to drink alcohol, why can you still buy a gun? I just found out that the new federal minimum age to buy cigarettes is 21. Cigarettes, but not a gun. The shooter in Uvalde bought 2 AR-style rifles legally just after his 18th birthday. These minimum age laws prevent young people and others around them from being victims of preventable gun violence and suicide. There's also increasing academic research showing that the human brain continues to develop well past the age of 21, and it's important to highlight that this is particularly in areas that may change someone's likelihood of involvement in violence against themselves and others. And you can learn more about this at giffords.org. Adam Kinzinger, a House Republican who owns an AR-15 himself, said this about raising the minimum age to 21.
But I think that raising the age of gun purchase to 21 is a no-brainer. If you look at the Parkland shooting, you look at Buffalo, you look at this shooting, these are people under the age of 21. We know that the human brain develops and matures a lot between the age of 18 and 21. We just raised, without really so much as a blink, the age of purchasing cigarettes federally to 21.
So far, we've talked about background checks, red flag laws, waiting periods, and increasing the minimum age to buy a gun. The last one I want to mention today is ending immunity for gun manufacturers. In 2005, after intense lobbying by the gun industry, the Republican majority Congress passed something called the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, also known as the PLCAA. This basically made the gun industry immune from nearly all lawsuits. So that means that victims of gun violence had no way of seeking justice.
After one child died using a Peloton treadmill last year, the Consumer Product Safety Commission intervened and recalled the product. But when hundreds of children die using guns, there is no federal response. There is no federal safety standard for guns. Even though 40,000 Americans hurt or kill themselves or other people in hundreds of accidents every year. Instead of regulating guns like any other consumer product, federal law protects gun manufacturers.
How is it the gun manufacturers and gun sellers have more protection from litigation than the ones making cars or tobacco products? Today, I've only mentioned a few of the ideas floating around to reduce gun violence. There are a lot of proposals you can learn about in the links I'm providing below. But here's what I also need you to know. The only way for any of this to pass is if we modify or eliminate the filibuster. If you want to understand fully what the filibuster is and how it works, watch this video. Basically, any kind of proposal to reduce gun violence can pass with a simple majority in the House of Representatives. But unfortunately, in the Senate, you need at least 60 senators to agree. 60! That's a supermajority. So right now, we would need 10 Republicans to agree with all of the Democrats to pass any of these laws. This is really difficult when so many of them receive millions of dollars from the gun lobby. And if you want to know where Republican senators stand right now on gun safety measures and how much the NRA loves them, check out this article from the New York Times. You'll be able to see how much money they've gotten directly from the NRA, not the gun lobby as a whole, and where they stand. But here's one thing I want you to know. Is everything in this article fixed in stone? Apparently not. Check this out. Republican Senator Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming said that she was surprised that her office was flooded with calls from constituents expressing a deep desire to do something to stop mass shootings across the country. She was surprised that people were so eager for something to be done. So, are you ready to do something? Let me give you 3 ideas. Number 1, contact your senators right away and tell them to pass gun legislation now. Thanks to Jessica Craven, I've provided you with a script you can say when you call their office. You can also email them or write them a handwritten letter. Just contact them. Number 2, sign up at Moms Demand Action and or Everytown for gun safety. They are leading organizations really focused on making our country safer by fighting against the gun lobby at every level. And number 3, donate to these organizations. Every single dollar helps. I have provided you with links to all of this in the description below. So all you have to do is click and you'll be on your way. And if you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe button below and give me a thumbs up so this video reaches more people. Visit tonolatino.com/subscribe to sign up for my emails, and I'm going to send you information so you're better informed and less overwhelmed. See you again soon. Un abrazo.